Hello and welcome to HolisticCircle podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy. And today here with me is Kelle Sparta. Hello, Kelle.
Hi, Philip. It's great to be here.
It's great to have a colleague. I am the junior and you're the senior, a famous podcaster. You've done this for years. So I'm really looking forward to asking you questions and learning some tricks of the trade at the same time. But
Happy to help.
nevertheless, I would love you, even if everybody knows you, if you still give us a moment to introduce yourself to my audience who might not have come across.
Absolutely. My name is Kelle Sparta. I'm a transformational shaman and a spiritual coach. And I work with people on a spiritual path to help them to step into the highest version of themselves and to step into their purpose as a function of that.
Wow, that is, I guess, like 3% of what you do for real. But let's take the 3% version so we get some time to talk and not just have the introduction.
Yeah. So,
all right. I'm very curious because we just spoke that you are starting a new thing, that you're putting together, you're in the moment of the creation of a new program, a new idea, things are happening. So basically we are live by the creation of a new thing. So could you please make a light introduction to the new thing, and then we'll pick it up and ask a question if that's all right by you.
absolutely. So my program that's launching in June is called the Psychic Mastery Mentorship. And it's a 6-month program that works with you to teach you how to protect yourself energetically, how to understand how to manage your energy field, how to tap into 4 different primary versions of psychic abilities, and how to access the different gifts that are within those quadrants. And then it works with you on how to do magic and manifestation at a broader level. So a lot of classes that you get out there, they're giving you things that are like cookie cutter, right? They're recipes. They hand you a recipe, you do the recipe, and that's how you get your result. But if you don't want exactly what the recipe is giving you, you have no way of knowing how to change the recipe to get what you want and have it be effective. So I work on that level. I'm not teaching you how to be a recipe cook. I'm teaching you how to be a chef. I'm teaching you how to understand how the energetic world works, how to work within that context, and how to see how things might interact and where the challenges might come up, and all of the pieces and parts that you need to be a master energy manipulator in that fashion. So that's the work that I'm doing in the world. And that's the new program.
I guess we're all signing up right now. While you're talking, we're already signing up with one hand.
It's so funny because I haven't even launched this yet. It is mid-April. It's not supposed to launch till June, and I've already got 5 people in the system because they were like, I need it now. You must give it to me now. And I'm like, I'm still putting stuff in. They're like, I don't care. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's definitely going to be it's a small group environment. So there's never more than 15 people in a group, which I love because I like to work intimately with my clients. I like to be involved and to be able to personally help them and help them see how what they're doing, can be shifted here or moved there to make it much more optimal. And I can't do that in a large group space. So I really like the small group environment. I've worked that way for decades. Yeah.
So let me now get a couple of questions. So first of all, is it an online program or a live program?
So it's the coursework is in a learning platform. And then we have 2 times a month, we have live calls. And then in between, you also have Marco Polo access, which is, it's asynchronous video chat. So it's like, when you record a message on Messenger, it sends it out. And when the person gets it, they can respond, that sort of thing. So same idea, but in video.
So basically, it's online for the most part.
Yeah, I do anticipate that some of the groups are going to end up, I live in Boquete, Panama, and I run retreats here. And so I do anticipate that the groups will end up coming down to do deeper level work, because the first 6 months is, how to get up and running. And then I'll just be doing additional stuff going forward from there. So I'm anticipating people will come down in groups and have a deeper connection and do stuff that you can only do in person and things like that. So it's not included in the price of the program right now, but people get a huge discount for being in the program and coming for retreats. They get 30% off the retreats. So
it's interesting because I today had one more podcast already before you, and there was also a person that organizing retreats in Panama. So there you go.
really,
Okay.
who is that? Maybe I know them.
And
It's a
most
small
likely
country.
you do. They are building some island now, some light island or something.
Maybe not. I don't. That doesn't sound familiar, but that's awesome. I'd
It's a
love to.
small, big
You're gonna have to
world.
tell me about it because I want to hear all about them.
So basically, you're looking a lot of your. I mean, you have a huge experience in the spiritual world, and you've talked
Yeah.
to thousands of hundreds of people from the spiritual therapists and so
Thousands.
forth. So I think all of this led you to create a program, pulling all of these strings together and just really knowing where is the magic source. So you put it all together in one bottle. Is that basically how it happened? That through all that podcasting and conversations, you had your own enlightenment progress.
Yeah. So my mother started me on this path when I was 5 years old, and I'm 55 now. So I've been studying this stuff for 50 years. And so, I've studied so many different things I can't even remember all of them. So, I was raised on Seth and Ram Dass and Abraham Hicks and J.C. Knight and all of the people, and Wayne Dyer and all of the people in that genre. And so a lot of this stuff is just in my bones. It's not what I do, it's who I am, right? And so I have been doing this work actively. I've been doing work on myself actively, hardcore self-growth, spiritual shadow work, all that stuff for about 28 years now. And so, yeah, I've done a huge amount of work over the years, and I've learned a lot from all the, I mean, I'm a people person, so I've gone all over the place. I've learned from so many different people over the years, and I've picked up stuff from books and from programs and from just personal interaction with different shamans and teachers and things like that. So it's just a wide breadth and scope of knowledge that goes across multiple traditions. And that's kind of my thing is I have this tendency to take the best of everything I've gone through, and then I sort of smush it all together into this bigger worldview, which is very interesting because when I started my podcast, which you referred to, which is Spirit Sherpa, when I started it in 2018, my friends started coming up to me like, I don't know, 3 months in, going, "Oh my God, I love your podcast." And I was thinking the podcast is a beginner's podcast. And they started looking at me going, "I love your podcast." I'm like, "You are 15 or 20 years into your process. Why on earth are you listening to my beginner's podcast? Why would you even listen to that?" And they're like, no, you're taking every 2-hour class I've taken in my entire life and you're stitching it together into a big world picture. And I was like, I am? Had no idea I was doing it, but it's how it works in my head. So I guess it made sense, right? And so I stopped calling it a beginner's podcast after that because so many people who were further along in their journey were enjoying it. And so, this is kind of what I do is I combine all of these different things, and all the different traditions have such very different vocabulary. And so you can't necessarily know, unless you're deep into the tradition, you can't necessarily know that this term over here means the same thing as that term over there. And so this is how they cross-pollinate. And so I talk a lot about that on the podcast, but I also do a lot of that in the work that I'm doing in this program. So I'm combining things from different traditions and putting them together into what is effectively become my way of seeing things and this integrated approach to spirituality and to energetics. And that is a unique thing because nobody's done the same things that I've done, right? And come to the same conclusions. I've got the benefit is that I have this engineer brain that is capable of structuring and creating, simple ways of understanding things, but I'm also highly intuitive. And so I'm tapping into the intuition and I'm using the engineer brain to bring it into a place where it's very easily consumable. And that's sort of my unique gift in the world.
Well, then it's a very simple question that needs to follow. who is your target audience? Who is the person who would need this, or how you envision? Is it the seeker, the spiritual seeker? Is it a person who is more in need of some guidance? Is it, as you said, shadow work, a person who is dealing with things and is looking for tools? Where would you see the ideal?
Great question. So to answer it, I want to give you a view of the spiritual process so that people can help identify themselves, right? So in the beginning, you are in a place where fear, anxiety, worry, dread, self-doubt, inner and outer judgment, and all of these things create a sense of just not feeling safe in your own space, right? So you're constantly under attack emotionally, even if somebody's not attacking you. You're presuming things about them, and you're making up stories in your head, and you're freaking out about stuff, and you've got anxiety and all of this stuff, and you don't have the bandwidth to do anything because you're so busy trying to defend against your monkey mind screaming at you in your brain, right? And so that's step one. And I have a program for that. It's called Welcome to the Woo. Okay. And you have to find mental, emotional, and energetic safety before you can actually start the process of your personal evolution. Okay. That's step one. Step two is the process of claiming your space, setting your boundaries, owning your power, internalizing your sense of value, and learning how to love yourself. In this way, you're not needing external validation. You know how to take care of yourself as though you are the beloved in your own life. You are aware that you have value even when you are not doing anything. And you're able to step into your power and own it and set boundaries without apology and reinforce those boundaries if necessary. That process takes you to a point where you're solidifying your energetic container and your sense of self. So, if somebody looks at you and goes, "Who are you?" and you only answer with your name or what you do for a living, and you don't know how to say anything else, then that's probably the space for you, right? If you're in a place where you've gotten the anxiety out of the way, but if you had to make a big, strong decision,
I gotta stop you from time to time.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah.
Do I see this as a step program? You go for the first
Yes.
step and you come to the next step, or you take you take the elements that you think you need first. So what you prefer? Is it guided, or is it there's the buffet and you start with fruits or cheese? That's all up to you.
So it's typically a step-by-step, but you don't have to come in at step one, right? So if you've been to therapy and you've done a lot of work and you're not feeling anxious all the time and if you don't have any of the issues that I mentioned earlier, then you are probably going to be able to start on step two, right? I have a quiz on my website that helps people identify what's the best path for them. But you do need to do it in order because each step prepares you for the next step. So you have to get your monkey mind quiet in order to do the deeper level work of solidifying your identity. And your identity work solidifies your energetic container, which puts you in a position where you can do shadow work. But if you try to do the shadow work before you solidify your container, what ends up happening is you end up re-traumatizing yourself by trying to do that work. And so we don't want to do that.
So the next question I have to ask before we go further with the program, and is there a lot of interaction between the students? Is it also a group experience involved, or is it then very individual? Is there interchange happening?
Yeah, so all of the environments that I have are group environments. They're maximum 15 people in a group, so it's a small group environment, and it's all group coaching and group, Marco Polo stuff, right? So it works that way. And so I love to do it in a group environment as opposed to one-on-one. The reason is that there's so much more benefit to seeing yourself reflected in others. And, to feeling like you're not defective in some way because, you feel this way or you've got that coping mechanism or whatever. And when you see other people with it, you're like, oh, this is a normal reaction to whatever it was that I experienced in my childhood, right? And the other piece is that sometimes you don't have the language to ask the question that you want, but you have something to ask, and inevitably somebody else in the group will ask the question for you, which
let's hope it's not a podcaster with that problem.
Yes. So, yeah, The interesting thing about a group and dynamic is that you've got the gestalt of the group. You've got the morphic field. So the morphic field is the energy of the program. The gestalt is the movement of people through the process within the energy of the program. And so the more people you have going through a process, the stronger the gestalt is. And so it helps to create its own movement within each person who comes in after that, right? And so that's the other benefit of a group environment, is that you've created this nice, strong gestalt moving through the energetic, and that helps people to get unstuck and to move forward in a faster and more efficient fashion. So,
I love that you're using German words to, you figured out a sneaky, deep psychological way to bond with me, right?
Yes, it's all about
very cunning, very cunning. The reason I asked this question about groups or individuals, because to me it sounds, I would like to clarify this a little bit, is because with spirituality, there's a lot of group organized spirituality, where this is the path and you follow the path, you submit to the path, you're part of the path, and in the end there's the light, versus individual search. I'm sure you come across this a billion times.
Yes.
That this is the two main themes. And I recently discovered that there is a lot of people, I guess like you at this point, we're just trying to open a little bit space in between, squeezing it out, not being a cult, not being a guru kind of, I'll take all your money and I'm going to abuse you, but please smile to the camera, versus the complete loneliness of a lot of spiritual search that can bring a disfranchisement. So is it something that you create that opens a space in between?
Yeah, so what I'm doing, so there are people out there who are like, I am the guru on high and you will do what I say and follow me, and that's how is the path to enlightenment. And I have never been that person, because I've never been the person who wants to follow that person. And so my goal in my programs is to get you to the point where you honestly don't need me. That's my goal, which is why I teach you to be a chef rather than a cook, because then you won't have to come back to me for all the recipes, right? You know, I could easily just keep the money machine rolling if I just sold you recipes forever, right? But why would I do that? I want fully empowered, fully sovereign, very energetically aware people out in the world, because my role on the planet is to up-level it. And I'm here to help all the people who came to up-level the planet. And so if I'm making you dependent upon me, then I am not doing my job appropriately, right? My job is to bring you up and set you free and hope that you exceed me. That is my goal, is that I have set you up so well that you surpass me and I get to learn from you. I am not about being the guru on high, right?
I think this is a very important element, right? Because this is, I guess, what people are looking for. And that's why, again, I said everybody's going to sign up, because we are in this in-between time also as a society. We are not anymore, we're not anymore the total followers of the old time, being in the church, if it's Catholic church or whatever, going there on Sunday, doing our thing. We're not there anymore, but we kind of miss it. We miss the rituals, we miss the structure, we miss all of these things. And then we had the crazy, super narcissistic, total individualism, which is a great theory, but it's just complete nonsense, because we're living in societies, cities, communities, and we can't, as individuals, build a community. It's a contradiction in terms by the end of the day. And people, I guess, starting to figure it out, especially with climate change and things like that, and resources getting scarce. We need a new awareness. And that's, I guess, where programs like you come into place to build these new, let's use the crazy American term, soldiers of this new awareness that will help make this transformation. Is that stretched too far, or you think that's part of your thoughts?
No, I don't think of people who are doing this work for evolution as soldiers. You know, I would have years ago. That's where the name Sparta came from, as I was very in my warrior self. But these days, I think of it more as, you know, the way in which so we learn to connect together into a grid. We all maintain our high vibration. And in the course of creating an energetic grid across the planet, and holding that vibration, we naturally bring the energy of the entire planet up with us, because if you have sufficient people holding a higher vibration, then everything else will naturally entrain to that new vibration. And you're seeing that already. I mean, 2020 was a huge awakening, right? We were all forced into a hermitage, and that caused a massive spiritual awakening. So we had the first stage awakening happen in 2016. I saw that happen. And then 2020 was the next wave of boom. Everybody was waking up, and they were waking up further along in their journey, right? So 20 years ago, when I would talk to people and they would say, I think I want to be on a spiritual path, they'd be like, oh, I want to talk to my guides. I want to talk to my angels and, maybe read some tarot cards, right? It was very simple, very beginning space. Today, when people come to me, they're like, I am seeing things. I have things running through my house. I'm being chewed on by demons. I have psychic prophecy dreams. I'm having prophetic dreams and they're happening and I don't know what to do with it. And I don't have language for what's happening to me, but there's something big and can you help me? And I can't tell anybody about it because they all think I'm nuts, right? People are going to think I'm crazy. They're going to put me in an institution. And I'm like, no, I can see what you're saying and I understand and I'm not freaked out. We're okay, right? So I have a lot of these conversations. I probably have at least one a week where somebody is coming to me and saying, weird stuff, right? And so because people are waking up so much further along in their journey, that's the reason why I've brought this program out into the world at this time. Because, you asked me who was the right person. And the answer is the person who has gotten to the point where they have solidified their sense of self, right? Once they're solid in their sense of self and they're capable of doing their shadow work without completely traumatizing themselves, then they're ready to do the Psychic Mastery Mentorship. I will usually recommend that if they're not fully in their sovereign selves, that they'll combine that with the Woo You program to do them at the same time so that they're working on both their personal growth and their spiritual growth at the same time. Because quite frankly, if you don't do your inner work, you will limit your ability to be effective on the energetic. Because if you have a fear of your own power, or if you're not willing to receive, or, there's a lot of things that if you haven't done your work, will prevent you from being able to do stuff at the highest level you could possibly do it. And sometimes prevent you from doing it at all. And so that's why you got to do them together.
You just throw two terms. So one element is the psychological, the inner level, and then it's the spirit level. Yeah. So is this two different programs, or is it just an element of the same program?
So in my first two programs, I combine them together. In the third series, which is the Woo You and the Psychic Mentorship, the Psychic Mastery Mentorship, I have them as separate programs because some people are going to come into the mastership, the mastery program, already at sovereignty, where they are already capable. They know what they're doing, and they've got their inner work down. They're good to go. So I split the programs at that point. But if they're at the point where they've just solidified, they're still needing to do their shadow work, they need self-inquiry work, they need help mapping out their psyche, things like that, that's when I say, okay, we'll do both together, okay? And then that allows them to continue the both process from the first two, right?
So we are basically now on the second level that you explained us so nicely, a couple of questions. So take us a little bit further down the road of your program, if you're made, to get the full picture.
So the second level was Woo Squared, right? So the first one's 4 months long, and the second one is a year long. And they together represent about 15 years worth of personal growth work and about 10 years worth of energetic training. And the reason you can do it so quickly is because 98% of the effort of trying to figure out what you're trying to get through your spiritual growth is to figure out what do you need and where can you get it that it works. And I took care of that for them. So it's actually a very simple process to walk through. So once you have solidified your sense of self, now the easy way to know if you need to do that is if you try to do something big for yourself, not for somebody else, for yourself. Something big, make a big decision, like you want to move, you want to enroll in college, you want to change jobs, whatever. If you try to do something big for yourself, you have to run, build up energy, and then pull the trigger on the decision immediately, or else all the energy drains back out again. If that's you, then you need the Woo Squared program because you're not solid. Once you are solid, you can make a decision about what you want to do, and you can hold on to that decision for as long as you need to before you're ready to implement, right? Without losing energy on it. And that's because you know who you are, you know what you want, you're very solid in your decision, and nothing is getting in the way of that, right? So that's the Woo Squared. And then the third program is Woo U, which is deep self-inquiry work. Digging out all the shadow stuff and yourself to a place where you are very clear on what your issues are, very clear on what it is that you are triggered by, and you have gotten your buttons and your triggers down to the point where you can have somebody trigger them and you go, oops, and then you can put it away and look at it later, right? It's not going to make you explode and go wild and, get all upset and whatever. You've lost the explosiveness of your triggers because you've worked on them enough that they're down to a below explosion level. That's what makes you safe to work with others, right? So wounded healers are people who have not done that third stage work.
Absolutely. This is a common problem. And then is then the spiritual side. So this is all basically the physical side, the body side, the inner work, all of these elements. And you wonderfully split it then to the spiritual element that leads towards magic and leads towards all of those higher things. And I guess we're all very curious to get a presentation of the Harry Potter stuff.
So the beginning is, simply how do you keep yourself safe, right? So it's, how do you clear your energy field? How do you hold your energy field effectively so that you're not being invaded by other people? How do you protect it? How do you protect your home and your space? How do you move through the world as an energy aware person, right? So that's the basics. And then it's about going into and I talked about the 4 quadrants, right? So there are 4 primary types of psychic abilities. And one is traveler, one is energy manipulator, one is sensor, and one is messenger. And those come at their psychic abilities from very different angles. Okay, so a traveler is someone who literally sends their consciousness out of their body, whether it is through a consciousness shift or through astral projection or anything like that. And they are then sending their energy out either into the world or into the Akashic records, or, there's a lot of different skill sets that are within that framework, right? The energy manipulator is the person who uses their energy to collect and manipulate and create and destroy energies on the energetic frame, right? These people are often, they can do healing work, they are magicians, they are manifestors, they are, they're doing a lot of different things. So spellcasters, things like that, right? And so that's all about how do you manipulate the energy, chaos magicians, things like that, right? Now, the third one is the sensor level, and that's the empaths of the world, right? So the empaths are using their personal energy field to interact with and understand the world around them. So they're healers, they're psychics, and they're ESP. They have ESP, right? And they are doing things from a feeling perspective where they're using their own energy to find things out and to create things. They're also great healers in that regard. And so, and then the last one is messenger. Messengers are people who are gathering messages from the beyond, right? So they're taking information from angels, from the dead, from their guides, from other people's guides, from deities, and they're just bringing these messages through them and communicating in that regard. They're also great. A sensor and messenger crossover is like an animal communicator, right? So yes, you can have more than one ability. I don't usually run across people who have all 4, but it can happen. I have all 4 to some extent, but I'm not super advanced in all of them because, there's only so much time in a day. But I don't have time to practice it all. But it's rare to find somebody who has all of them. So the goal is that you find the ones that are right for you, and then we work together to help you master those, right? So you've got the basics in the program. Yeah.
And do you have tests for that? Do you make a personal assessment, or how you help people finding their individual link?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of testing people because that feels like they're handing their power over to me, right? So what I do is I give them what they need to know in order to do these things. And I say, look, go practice and then come back and tell me what your results are. And I'll help you interpret those results, right? And we'll determine which things you have an aptitude for and which things you don't. And the things you don't, just let them go. You don't need to do those. Be focused on mastering the things that you're good at.
Right, because you said in the introduction that you're taking so many from different cultures. That is your great talent, to looking all of these different cultures and melting it together. Now, this, what you just talked about, actually exists in many different cultures. As basically is one of the few things that basically exists everywhere, which I find rather interesting. Do you have here preferred kind of a culture for these specific elements that you draw your wisdom from? Or it's just so much melted together that it's basically now yours?
It's mostly mine at this point, but I will tell you where my influences have come from. I came through Wicca. I came through shamanism. I'm still actively in shamanism. I have done Chinese medicine study. I've come from energy healing work. I studied Grey's Anatomy, so I have physical, medicine background. I come through metaphysics. That's where I started, was in metaphysics. Mom raised me in metaphysics. So, and, smatterings of different things along the way, different practices, different religions, things like that. But yeah, at this point, it's mostly just what I do. I'm not actually actively drawing from those traditions I'm not practicing any one tradition.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of married together.
I'm very much in love that I figure out that there's a movement right now happening, is mainly in the US actually, where they are hoping to teach those qualities to children, to even make it part of the regular school program. These specific 4 groups, the 5 groups you just now mentioned, to help children to discover it and to activate it. I think this is rather lovely, whole new things happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for a while. I used to do work with kids in the middle school system back in 1999. And I did work with them on creative visualization at that time. And I did a lot of work with them on understanding who they are and things like that. It wasn't super woo-woo. You couldn't really get away with that back then. But creative visualization, people were okay with because it was okay in business. If it's okay in business, you can generally get away with it in schools, right? And the business world has been expanding, and a lot of the higher ups are doing ayahuasca journeys and things like that, which, by the way, I don't do. And they're doing a lot more in the way of awareness and things like that. They're doing it through plant medicine more often than not, which I don't generally recommend, just because it's hard on the body, and there are other ways to get there. But if it's your path, then it's your path. And the more that the business world in the U.S. expands to be okay with this work, the more you see it available in schools, right? Because they'll allow that. However, I will say, from personal experience, from a friend of mine's experience, technically, is if you bring empowerment into corporate America, into the lower echelons, you can do it in the management level. But if you bring it into the lower echelons, then corporate America ceases to function because everybody quits. So that's going to be a problem for corporate America, is they're going to stay away from empowerment at a core level. And that's at the core what I really do. So,
and that's exactly what's going to happen with schools. If you go to some elite schools or where the future leader schools, you're happy to teach these things. But if you go to the regular public school and you teach any kind of awareness, well, they kick you out to the boot.
Yeah.
But let us just maybe for clarification. So these abilities, I'm a regular Joe, and I've done some work, whatnot, and I would like to get this psychic thing going on in my life. How much, first of all, you think that everyone has psychic abilities, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
the baseline. Now the
Yeah.
question is, so if I say how long would you say to the average listeners about how much time it needs when you're into it and engaged that you can activate some of these psychic abilities within you?
So that's going to depend on the person. And so I'll tell you why. Because if you have some of those blocks I was telling you about, where you're afraid of your own power, where you're afraid to be seen, where you're afraid to be powerful for a variety of different reasons, where you are not open to receive, where you've got all of this stuff, you're going to have your psychic abilities are going to be a little more challenged. If you are an empath, and so almost everybody I work with is an empath. And so if you have not learned how to manage your energy field such that, everybody else is inside your field all the time and you're monitoring them, you don't know if the emotion is yours or somebody else's, and if somebody's got a strong emotion, you don't even know how you feel, right? If you're in that state, then it's going to be you're going to have awareness through your through your sensor abilities, but you may not develop a lot of the other abilities until you learn how to master that, because you are defending against all of the onslaught of other people's stuff all the time. You may have to retreat and be alone in order to do anything else. And so you lose out on a lot of the group environments and things like that. So it just depends upon where you are in your own process. This is why I say it's important to do the mental work as well as the spiritual work. And all of my programs do those concurrently for that reason. So, but, generally, if you want to, and again, this depends on how strongly your awakening was, right? If you're one of the people waking up with all kinds of crap going on for you, then you're going to be in it right now, right? Some people can be just like immediately just deep into it and they just don't even know what's going on, right? And one of the challenges of coming in like that is if you don't have context, then one of the things that happens is if you are a very potentially high energy user, right, where you have the potential to be a really powerful person, then if you come into your awakening without this knowledge of how things work and things like that, there are entities out there that will try and latch onto you and move you in a direction that is away from your own empowerment. And they will try and bind you up. And that's one of the challenges. So people come to me and they're like, I'm under attack. And I'm like, you woke up without context. Okay, I'm going to put a little protection sign in front of you and get the attacks to stop. We'll deal with that. And now let's show you how to make sure that you're protected. And we'll teach you how to do that for yourself, because you should never have to be dependent upon somebody else for more than just a small period of time. Right? Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I mean, this is not taking a second away from your program, but you're the person to talk to, because one of the things that I was quite fascinating with and trying to come to the point, and you seem to having an answer, because a lot of the people that I talk to who work with the higher realms and astral travel and whatnot, and they talk a lot about those creatures who take your energy, who suck onto you, whatever term you want to use. Some use demons, some use this. People who have not made the transition, all the terms.
I do.
Yes. And there is a very big group of people, basically so far, everyone that I've met and interviewed, that say you can never, ever get rid, if once that they are stuck to your aura and they take energy from you, that you as a human being, there's nothing on earth you can do to get rid of them if you do not ask an angel or higher being of light to do it for you. And that's I found
totally not
fascinating.
True. It's totally not true. I have thrown countless things off of me over the years and did not, I called in help in some instances? Yes. But the vast majority, I'm just like, no, I yank things off of people all the time. There's absolutely no reason. That is a belief structure designed to get you to hand over your power to something else. That belief structure is a toxic belief structure. You are the biggest bad in the room. All you have to do is believe it.
It feels more natural to me what you're saying. That's why I've been poking interview after interview, because for me it was very hard to accept the fact that there is something happening to a human being and it must require an angel or spirit of light. This sounded to me like a break of the cosmic order.
Yeah. Well, and there's a whole level of light worker out there who is very attached to, I have to stay in the light, I have to be of the light, I have to do this. And the problem is that when you don't go into your own shadows, then they're going to come and bite you in the butt because you're not paying attention to them. They're like, oh, if I don't admit it exists, I remove it from my reality, blah, blah. But it's part of you. You can't not have that. And it will attract to you things that will mess with you so that you will deal with it, right? Whether that be physical circumstances or energies or whatever, right? And, when you're not looking at, we have so much. So there's so much in the Christian construct in the US, right? Where we've grown up with these stories of demons and devils and da-da-da-da-da, and there's so much around evil and blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, in Eastern culture, they understand the balance of light and darkness. They get it. That's the yin-yang all the time, right? It's right there. However, in Western culture, we're like, oh, darkness, evil, bad, da, 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 da. It's like, no. In Native American culture, they understand it. It's great spirit and great mystery. Great mystery is the darkness, right? We have to be able to embrace our own darkness. We have to be able to walk into that and see and experience it. And this is the key, right? So there's a stage of evolution, and this is usually right around the time between the Woo Squared and the Woo U program. It's the once you've solidified your sense of self, now you start to work into the feminine side of the work. So the masculine side is strip away until you become nothing and you become one with everything. That's the evolution there. The feminine side is to accept and receive without judgment, everything. Thus, you become everything and become one with everything. And then the goal of the end result of enlightenment is to do both at the same time and have it not be a paradox. Okay, so, but the challenge that most people have is when they walk into that second half, into that feminine path, they walk into the darkness and they go looking for the light switch because they're trying to understand it. And at that point of your work, you don't understand things, you experience them. And when you're in the experience level, that's when a lot of this stuff tends to show up, right? Because it's giving you an experience. And so like demons, for instance, they exist to help us overcome our fears because they trigger the crap out of them, right? And so they come in and they trigger up your fears and they get you all fearful and excited. And the more you fear them, the more power they have over you. And that's why people are like, oh, I have to invite in an angel to do it because I'm too afraid, is really what it comes down to. And that's handing over your power to another entity. Now, in an emergency situation, is that bad? No, absolutely not. Ask for help if you need it, right? But as a default, that's really not where you want to be, right? So you want to be in a place where something comes to mess with you and you're like, what do you want? And it's like, I want to, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, your drama is not attractive to me. I'm not afraid of you. State your business or get moving along, right? Because I got no time for this. That's the space you want to be in, because that way that when they come for you, you're just like, whatever, And it's not a problem, right? If you happen to have a bad day and you let yourself get low energy and something comes to chew on that low energy, you go, oh, I'm being chewed on, yank and throw. No big deal, right? You have to get to the point where you're not afraid of it. When you're afraid of it, you need to ask for help because you're like, and fear also makes us stupider, by the way. There's a study that's shown that you lose 10 points of IQ when you're in fear. So the staying out of fear is a crucial skill because you'll lose your smarts. And so that's the other piece of the equation. And so, yeah, you can absolutely take anything off of yourself.
Thank you for making a little detour, because I know if anyone to ask, I ask you. And that makes me very happy that at least the first person who is on my side in thinking that the universe must have a structure and it cannot be an interdependent element within the universe. It does not sound logic.
If you think about it this way, I want to say one more thing about it because it's so important. We are everything and everything is us, right? If we are the universe and the universe is us, what could we possibly not have power over in our own experience of life? What is it that we could possibly not have power over and not have the power to do anything with, right? It's not about power. It's not about even intent. It's about belief that you can do it.
Exactly. We're on the same page. Now, but we have to now, we triggered the audience. We have to end up our podcast with the Harry Potter stuff.
It was
As
so much fun.
said, we have to talk about the magic that basically, I guess, is the last step of your program. And I think everybody's getting up to know what wonderful little, flying saucers, just tell us the magic that we will learn at the end of
so there's
the journey.
There's 28 different modules in the program. And so in a 26-week program. So when I say I am the queen of content, okay? There is so much content. So there's, you're working with the different abilities that we talked about. We're going to do deep level manifestation. I'm going to teach you how to think about magic and how to make magic work for you and work within a chaos magic perspective, not high ritual ceremony. I am not a high ritual ceremony person. So if that's what you're looking for, I'm not your girl. Go find a Gardnerian or a Hermetic magician to teach you. I am not that person. I'm going to make something happen person from the things that I have in my environment, and we will just craft it on the fly. And that's who I am, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, right? I'm going to teach you how to not have to have the high ceremony piece. And so the work is, I've got a section on demons, I've got a section on thought forms, I've got a section on, how to do golems, and I got to even look at my module here to even know everything because I've written so much of it. I'm just like, wow, how to think about magic, spirit communication, ghosts and how to manage those, the language of spirit, how to think about magic energy and the energy world, energetics, what to do when you're working with collective fields and group consciousnesses, dimensional exploration, and when you split into multiple dimensions, if you're looking at timelines and things like that, there's so many.
So all of this magic, to me, I would say is a consciousness magic. Is that a term that would somehow work with you in some way or the other, to being able
as opposed to
create and manifest a certain energy field and work it, use it, and transform it with others. So this is the magic that you create around you. Is that some way how I understand the magic that you specifically talk about?
Yeah, it crosses across a lot of different areas. But yes, it's a creation of your own reality, right? That's really ultimately what it comes down to, right? Whether we're talking about egregores or whether we're talking about clearing curses or, anything like that.
Because it's exactly the interesting part about magic, right? You can try, as we said, put the magic onto others. You can magic things, or you can magic yourself in a place, in an energy, in a posture, and thereby create the vibrations and the connection from inside out. So this is we don't want to talk about dark, black and white magic, but in a certain sense, this is the magic that I understood from your description.
So any magic can be used in an ethical or an unethical fashion, right? I'm always highly ethical about how I'm doing stuff. So I'm aware when people are like, okay, what you're proposing is black magic. However, if you twist it just this way, it becomes gray or white magic. And at which point it's not creating karmic debt, it's not creating problems and all the other things, right? So it's like, if you twist, instead of trying to manipulate somebody else into doing something, if instead you hold the energy of intention for a positive outcome for you, then you're not directly impacting the person, you're just directly impacting your experience of things. And therefore, the universe will rotate and shift to support that outcome, right? So yeah, I'm coming at it from that angle, which is a great question. I didn't think to talk about that, but yes, thank you.
Right. Because it leads to, of course, we don't have the time to now open the bag of karmatic, because that is then basically the ultimate. When we're staying in magic, we're dealing with karma ultimately. unfortunately or happily, or as you described it very beautifully, that the karma rotates around you and you not interfere if you stay on the right side of things. But that, I guess, is a discussion for another day and for most probably another level of consciousness to go into the whole realm of karmatic terror.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've had a wonderful ride through your program. I think we are coming at this is the end of the program where we've been. Did I understand this correctly? We've covered.
Well, I mean, there's one stage afterwards, which is to do one-on-one work with me as an apprentice. But, yeah, this is the final stage other than that.
Now I'm getting scared. Don't tell me about it. I want to sleep peaceful at night.
Scary.
God knows. This is the beginning. I don't know where it's going to.
Well, I have somebody I'm working with right now who's doing deep level transformational work across an entire country. And we're doing one-on-one work on that, which is amazing. I'm having so much fun doing that work.
Well, better you than me. I think it was a wonderful experience for me to have such a accomplished podcaster and a person with so much different experience, and being part in the creation is always something I deeply personally love. I love being involved in creation. I've founded many companies and I helped many people found companies, and I love that when the truth is still fresh. This is when it's most wonderful to listen. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to being part of the making, and we all can't wait when it goes online in June, you said.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody contacts me in advance, then I can let them in because I've been letting other people in. So if they want in now, they can contact me and I will talk to them about it. But yes, the calls start in June. So anybody who's coming in early, they can have an extra month of payment plan. They can have 7 months instead of 6 months of payment plan if they need it. But it officially starts in June.
Thank you so very, very much for this interesting ride for the whole spiritual world and the inside world. Thank you so very much. And I hope we'll have another chance to talk in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been awesome.